What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're going to be taking a first look at the brand new Venom Jack by Jack Wolf Knives. This is generation 2 of this model, and of all the slip joint models that hadn't got the Gen 2 treatment, probably the one I was looking forward to the most, so super hyped about this month's release. If you've already seen the 5 configurations this one's going to be dropping in, and want to guess which one I chose, feel free to leave those guesses down in the comments below. You'll have a good 30 seconds or so to get them in as we admire the tube art, this time around by Jay Gonzo, as we usually see with the Gen 2, and talk about the release details. So this one's going to be available at authorized dealers Friday, August 16th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific for the standard slip joint price of $300. Now that does include the dealer exclusive, which this month is through BladeHQ. Really cool exclusive. We'll talk about those variants at the end of the video. But before we put this tube down, I want to say that Jay Gonzo absolutely killed it on the tube art this month. This is probably my favorite tube of all of the ones they've done so far. And a big part of that is I'm a fan of snakes. I have a couple myself, and so I think the snake armor was just super appealing to me. But I have this really cool snake head on the helmet, on the chest plate, and even the handle of our knife has this really wicked snake design, probably my favorite of those snake designs. And so absolutely love what he did with the tube art this month. But let's get that out of the way and take a look at the one I chose. Really tough choice this month. In fact, I didn't really decide until the last minute. I think as I was texting Ben back which one I wanted to take a look at, I may have whispered Rock Pattern TI, but what I actually ended up typing was, let me get that green, baby. And so I went with the Toxic Green, and it just jumps off the covers, looks really, really stellar, really pops there. And I think with some of the models, I'm gonna get the microfiber out of the way because sometimes it causes some focus issues. With some of the models like the Venom Jack and the Vampire Jack, certain configurations just work so well thematically, it's hard for me not to choose them. And I think that's really true for a lot of people, which is why I believe this one's going to be one of, if not the most popular configurations this time around. The Toxic Green Camocarbon just screams Venom to me and just has such a wicked look. Pairs really nicely with the black wash finish we got on both the TI and the blade itself this month, and so love that finish. This is the only configuration that gets that black wash this time around. We do have a blasted and tumbled option, as well as 2 hand satin and I think a belt satin option. Now, the reason this model was so appealing to me is a lot of the people who own the Gen 1 of this think of it very fondly, speak of it very fondly. I'm also a huge fan of Wharncliffe blades, so that was appealing to me. And I think the overall size was one of the big appeals as well. This one's just over 6.8 inches, making it one of the larger slip joint patterns, or at least in that class of larger slip joint patterns, similar to the Vampire Jack or Pioneer Jack. And so I like that aspect of it. I think the design just super clean looking and looked pretty comfortable in hand, and so was super excited about that. If you don't recognize where the design inspiration came from, it's from the traditional trapper pattern, more specifically Tony Bose's Wharncliffe trapper. Usually a trapper has a clip point and a spade blade, where his replaced the spade blade with the Wharncliffe. This is obviously a single bladed model like all Jack Wolf knives, and so we only have the Wharncliffe, but I actually think that really helps with the ergos overall. One of the reasons I really like single bladed slip joints is you don't have to contend with the second blade in the ergos, no matter what you do with the handle. And I don't have the Tony Bose Wharncliffe trapper, but I have plenty of standard trappers to compare it to, so here is one from Case, and you can see exactly what I mean. They have this shape in the handle for the ergos, but you really can't feel it because that secondary blade is just in the way. That's the first thing you grab onto. You don't really notice the ergos at all unless you have both blades open, which you can't use it with both the blades open. And so I think that really improves the ergos, just getting rid of the second blade. But as you can see, they're not identical. The regular trapper is a little bit longer. The Venom Jack's obviously a little bit wider overall. You can see the first major change is in this hump right here in the middle of the internal grip section of that handle. That's been smoothed out, so you transition all the way to the tail end of the knife a lot more smoothly. And then at the end of the knife, it's really widened quite a bit, probably about an inch wide here on the Venom Jack. And so it widens out to keep you from sliding back on the knife. It really improves the ergos quite a bit. And so gonna get that one back out of the way. Mentioned it being a little over 6.8 inches. We get 3.81 inches on the handle, so able to wrap all 4 fingers around there, and just incredible ergos on this one. It seems to fit my hand just perfectly. You can see all 4 fingers with that pinky landing just in front of that tail end, so I'm not going to slide back when I'm cutting with it. Just has a really nice grip and fits my hand pretty perfectly. 3 inches on the blade, which I do believe is a change from Gen 1. If I had to guess why, it probably had to do with international knife length limit laws, and so I believe the old one was listed at 3.01 inches. This one's 3 inches even, so it can contend with those laws. Now, a lot of the times they're going to measure the cutting edge, which is 2.64 inches on there. You can see we have a decent bit of tang here as well as that sharpening choil, but it is up to the discretion of the person measuring, and so keeping it to 3 inches really takes it out of their hands and keeps it legal no matter what. So if I had to guess, that's why he went with the slightly shorter. Now, the handle length is identical, but we do have the triple fluting on that integral bolster that we see with all of the Gen 2 slip joint models, and so the only exception is going to be on that titanium rock pattern one, where you don't have any bolsters of any sort. Obviously no covers. It has that rock cut pattern all the way across. Really cool option. That one has some purple anodized screws as well, which I really like, and so that's another appealing thing. This black wash also just looks excellent. I like how it makes that spring a little bit more visible, and so perfect fit and finish as always. There's no gapping of any sort, but because the edges end up being a little bit more polished than everything else, you end up seeing that silver through a little bit, and so you can kind of see the transitions a little bit better, which I actually do like on this knife. We have a excuse me, S90V blade as usual here, hollow grind on there. Again, that black wash, same black wash as before. Really subtle swedging across the top of that blade, and so that's a really nice touch as well. Nail nick deployment, but this is also probably the most pinchable model that he's released so far. Just great access to that blade, as you can see, and so I don't even know that I've used the nail nick. I always prefer a pinch grip if I can, and so that just works really, really well. Kind of the lighter pull like we've been seeing with some of the recent models. So when I say lighter, I mean for a Jack Wolf, it's still a heavy pull, probably a good 7 to a 7.5, but a little bit lighter than some of the previous models that may have gotten up there to around 8 or so. And so not going to be an ultra nail breaker, but still a really stout pull. Great walk and talk on these as always. Just an excellent snap, and the fit and finish on these is always immaculate. I sometimes forget to mention it because it's just kind of expected at this point, but this is a model that just fits so well in my hand. I think 2.5 ounces or so, so pretty lightweight as well. It does come with our slip, our sticker, our tube, our POG as always, of course, but this is a model that I think if people are trying to get into a Jack Wolf slip joint, they've never tried one out, that I think this might be the one I start to recommend. I just absolutely love this one. For whatever reason, it just resonates with me, and I'm really, really digging it so far. But as usual, we got 5 different configurations. This is only one of them. 4 are going to be available at all dealers. So obviously the Toxic Green Camocarbon with the black wash. We also have a blue marble carbon fiber. That one has the hand satin finish. Really vibrant blue on that one as well. Got the titanium rock pattern, which I already mentioned. That one has the belt satin finish. And then the dark matter red fat carbon with the blasted and tumbled finish. That one was a really appealing option for me as well because I love the blasted and tumbled look. And then last but not least, our dealer exclusive, which is again through BladeHQ, has the Blue Canyon Rich Light with I believe bronzed hardware, and that one looks super killer too. Going to appeal to a lot of those people who are looking for micarta options, because Rich Light I believe is basically a version of linen micarta. Let me know what you think of this one down in the comments below though. If you're going to pick one up, let me know which configuration you're thinking about. I'm always interested to see which one's going to be the popular pattern. I always try and guess what it is. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes it's completely out of left field, completely unexpected. So always like to hear what people are planning on picking up. But thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member. All help the channel out a ton. And again, I'll make sure to link to a list of those authorized dealers, list the drop details on when it's going to be releasing. That does apply only to the USA dealers. So if you're international, they may alter their drop time. It should be the same day, but they may alter their drop time to normal business hours wherever you're at. So make sure to check with your dealer if you're international. But thanks again for watching. Hope you have a great one. Take care.